Right now on Upfront.
Raucous town halls.
The United States.
Republican lawmakers back home facing the voters.
I just think it's time to go.
Some taking it head on.
We want to be able to get through as many of your questions as we can.
Others saying no thanks.
I'm not going to set the conditions for people to come in and show disrespect.
Now the fallout and what it can mean ahead of the midterms. With us this Sunday, Republican Congressman Brian Stile and Democratic Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Then, measles in Wisconsin.
This is entirely preventable.
Cities and schools preparing for a potential outbreak. The state with a dropping vaccination rate.
This is a public health crisis if it does come to Milwaukee.
Dr. Jonathan Temte, the former chairman of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and UW professor who once declared the measles eliminated, is here with us. And the Trump factor.
I talked to the president a week ago. I just wanted to make sure and hear from him.
Congressman Tom Tiffany considering a bid for Wisconsin governor. And President Trump now weighing in. Our one-on-one from the state fair, just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. The August heat is upon us and the political instability that it can bring. The August recess, lawmakers back home, the state fair ending today, and voters, as we're seeing play out across the country and here in Wisconsin, bringing the heat themselves.
One of the biggest improvements that we have seen is the success in securing the U.S.-Mexico border. We have an array. Thank you.
Everyone. If you wouldn't mind, if you want to get to your questions, we have to get through this part.
Republican Congressman Brian Stile, not even minutes into his town hall.
I'm not looking. I want to be able to get through as many of your questions as we can.
Embarked on more than an hour of boos and jeers inside the auditorium at Elkhorn High School.
Would you guys just rather the congressman go to lunch and you get shout for the next 45 minutes? Because I'm okay with that. Why don't you get out of here, sir? You're being very obnoxious and very disrespectful to everybody else in this auditorium.
Stile holding the town hall in a district Democrats are targeting, but even more Republicans this summer seem to be avoiding.
Come to my office. I like to be a resource to you in assisting getting people out with information.
A historic staple of the August recess when lawmakers are back home.
My main concern is the tariffs that are coming up.
And like in years past,
Alligator, Alcatraz is a concentration camp.
The starving children in Gaza.
This year, Democrats energized to show up and confront their Republican lawmakers.
I don't think you're the right fit for us anymore. I just think it's time to go.
Stile, the chair of the House Administration Committee in charge of overseeing security for U.S. House members, with law enforcement on hand, facing questions ranging from deportations to tariffs, Medicaid, and President Trump's big, beautiful bill.
This is the first time I've ever come to a political event, so it's pretty raucous, pretty crazy. I didn't know what I was going to get into, but I applaud you for standing up here and taking it.
And with that, let's bring in Republican Congressman Brian Stile. Congressman, good to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
Let me get your takeaways from what we saw, what you witnessed firsthand for more than an hour inside that auditorium. What is your takeaway from those people who showed up at your town hall?
Over the past 6 years, I've held dozens and dozens of in-person town halls. On occasion, we have someone that wants to be disruptive. I think it was a little disappointing last week where a large minority of folks came in with the intent of being disruptive. I mean, they booed the Pledge of Allegiance. They booed when we said we should have civility, and they continued on being disruptive. The vast majority of people want answers to questions. They want to have a dialogue, and that's essential in our democracy. It doesn't mean we have to agree on every issue, but I do think it's important to stand up and walk people through why I'm voting in the way that I am to get this country back on track. And we're going to continue ways to make sure that we're engaging with folks on the issues of the day.
You're obviously not alone. We're seeing this play out in town halls across the country this August recess. How concerning is this for Republicans and yourself as we look ahead to the midterms?
I don't think that again, that minority of protesters is representative of people of the state of Wisconsin. One, I think broadly people in our state behave admirably in social situations. But two, what I really think it shows is there's a lot of energy on both sides of the aisle right now because people are frustrated in many ways with where our country's at. I share that frustration. Things are still far too expensive for families to afford the things that they need. We've made great progress securing the U.S.-Mexico border, but crime is too high in our nation's largest cities. And so there's a lot of work to be done.
You do say a small number, but it seems like you couldn't even get a full sentence across before people started yelling for that entire hour inside the auditorium.
Yeah, I've seen different media reports. Somewhere in the neighborhood of about 400 or 500 people were probably in the hall. I've seen about 40 to 50 protesters in total that were in the room. It definitely wasn't everyone there.
Coming off of this, are you going to do more in-person town halls?
Yeah, we continue, and I've done this now for 6 years. I've held dozens and dozens of in-person town halls. I think it's productive to engage with folks. We'll find different ways and different places to continue to do it.
Still though, some in person like we saw in the auditorium?
Yeah, I think being in person and dialoguing is actually a really important part of the job. It was disappointing that a small group of people wanted to protest in a manner to prevent a productive conversation from occurring for the vast majority of people that actually wanted to hear answers on a whole host of topics. And so I've made a commitment to be open and accessible and available, and I'm going to continue to be that. I won't be deterred by a small number of activist protesters.
Why don't you think more of your colleagues are doing that, what you're doing, town halls?
Well, again, right, I mean, it wasn't that town hall wasn't terribly productive just because of the volume of these activist protesters in the room. But in general, I've held dozens and dozens of town halls and just really haven't seen that level of volume previously. We've had protesters that have popped in on occasion. We've had supporters that clap loudly as well. And so I'll let every member make their decision as to the best way to interact with their constituents. For me, I think it's important to be there in person and answer people's questions.
Republican Congressman Brian Stile. Congressman, like always, thank you.
Thank you.
Other Wisconsin Republicans say no this August to town halls.
I'm not going to set the conditions for people to come in and show disrespect to their fellow Wisconsinites. It's just not going to happen. And if people have questions, just call and ask me.
Are you going to do any town halls while you're home on recess?
Not going to do any town halls, but I'm out meeting with people.
More from Congressman Tiffany and his potential bid for governor in a few minutes. Meantime, Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan tweeting this picture hosting a town hall in Congressman Van Orden's district. Congresswoman Gwen Moore doing the same in Stiles' district. The Congresswoman joins us now. Congresswoman Moore, it's always great to see you.
Good to be with you.
We just heard from Congressman Brian Stile after his town hall. In response to these town halls that we're seeing across the country this August recess, the National Republican Congressional Committee said that they're being hijacked into choreographed Democrat theater packed with left-wing activists who are manufacturing outrage. I'm curious your response to that as we see these town halls play out.
Boy, don't they wish that were the case. I've gone into their districts. I haven't brought a single person with me except my driver. And I'm not responsible for who comes. And the people there are outraged. Those people there are educating themselves. I literally talked to a bill collector, and he, realizing that I was a congresswoman, he confessed that he had voted for Donald Trump, and now he doesn't, all the horrible things that are happening and that big, beautiful bill he kept me on. For the longest time, I had to remind him that I needed to pay my bill. Because people are figuring this out.
We're also following what's developing in Texas this past week. You've talked about that as well. Some of those Democrats are now in Illinois. Have you personally been in touch with any of the Texas delegations since this has all transpired?
I actually have had an opportunity to talk to some of the Texas lawmakers in Texas, and they've made it very, very clear that they deserve profiles in courage, that they have left the state because there are racist maps. You know, I don't drop the R word often, but these maps are designed to pit Black lawmakers against other Black lawmakers. in order to create 5 new GOP seats. In Texas, there are 38 congressional seats. 25 of them are already held by Republicans, and they want 5 more. They want to do it because the Democrats are so close, just 3 seats away from regaining the majority, and Donald Trump wants to rig the system with racism as his leading charge.
Democrats, as you know, here in the state, Congresswoman, were pushing to redraw Wisconsin's congressional maps ahead of the midterms. The state Supreme Court rejected that. Were you disappointed in that decision?
Well, I respect our Supreme Court, and they wanted it done decently and in order. I don't think that the Supreme Court agrees that we have the fairest maps on the congressional level. We don't. But they wanted, I believe, and I haven't talked to them, but I believe that they wanted that matter taken to the right court with the correct jurisdiction, and not brought immediately to them. I think that, somebody wants to follow the law and follow protocol.
Is that a similar comparison? Democrats here in Wisconsin looking to pick up seats in Congress, Texas Republicans?
It is not the same. We do not want to draw a racist map, disenfranchising people of color from their representation. No, we want a more fair map. We have a gerrymandered map. Now, we have 8 congressional seats. Democrats, based on our population, based on our voting patterns, we ought to have 4 of the 8 seats. And instead, it's just Mark Pocan and I, just 2. It's about fairness and people being represented.
As for yourself, are you planning to run for re-election for your seat?
Absolutely. I'm running. I ain't tired yet.
Democratic Congresswoman Gwen Moore, Congresswoman, like always, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Coming up, measles in Wisconsin preps now for a potential outbreak. The UW professor and former chairman of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee with us next.